We waited a year and a half for this. What is going on, guys? My name is the California Cougar, and today it's time to review a new season of Survivor. Yes, Survivor Season 41 has just ended. Its season finale was on Wednesday, and yeah, I got a chance to watch it that night, so I know who won. And yes, there will be spoilers in this video, so if you haven't watched the season finale yet, I would suggest doing that first before coming back to watch this video. But I've got a lot to talk about with this season, so let's get right into it. So, the whole motto of this season was drop the 4, keep the 1. It's a new era of Survivor. That's what Jeff Probst said at the beginning of the game. And oh boy, it's a new era, all right, I'll tell you that. But is that really a good thing? Well, not really. Not for this season. At least not in my eyes. Survivor 41 was horrible. It was a massive disappointment. I did not like really any part of it. There were a couple good things about it that I'll get into, but for the most part, for a season that we had to wait a year and a half for, it left the most bitter taste in my mouth that I think I've ever had watching Survivor since probably Survivor Samoa, honestly. You could, or maybe even Survivor South Pacific. I don't really know. But yeah, it left a bitter taste in my mouth. There were so many problems that I had. First off, 26 days. Like, okay, I can understand you're trying to fit like 2 seasons in a shorter amount of time, so you have to shorten it to 26 days. I hope that's not a permanent thing. 39 days has always been the staple for Survivor. Hell, the Australian version of Survivor goes to 55 days or something like that. They go far past 39 days. So yeah, and they claim it's the hardest season of Survivor ever. Yeah, I don't buy that for a second. Have you seen Survivor Samoa? It rained for 12 days straight there or something ridiculous like that. And that was a 39-day season. They didn't really have a whole lot of food. Yeah, they claim that the reason the season was so hard is because they weren't given rice or anything. Well, I mean, they were given rice kind of later on in the game, but still, I guess they weren't really given rice, so they had to forage for food. That's not, and yeah, I understand that's not how it always was. They were actually given quite a bit of food, especially in the first few seasons, and then they started giving them less and less, and then even less after that. But Survivor Samoa, based on what Russell Hantz said on his YouTube channel, now, not a big Russell Hantz kind of guy. I always thought his gameplay was kind of overrated, but I will say, he was out there. He said that, I do have to kind of take his word for it. He said that there was no rice at the beginning of Survivor Samoa. So, you kind of got to take his word for it, because he was on the season. We weren't. We didn't get to see what was happening. So, yeah. Survivor Samoa seemed like a much harder season to me. And 26 days, that's just not enough. Go back to 39, please. I know season 42 has already been filmed. That's also going to be 26 days. Whatever. Hopefully 43 will go back to 39 days, because that's how I know Survivor as. It's a 39-day long game, and that's how I think it should be. So yeah, that's the first thing I want to address. The second thing, the cast. Now, the cast had some interesting moments for sure. Or interesting people for sure, I should say. The problem is, most of the most interesting characters this season were voted out pre-merge. People like Voce, people like even Sarah could have been an interesting character, I think. People like Jeannie, Brad, JD. There were a lot of great characters that were voted off pre-merge. Now, granted, there were some good post-merge characters like Deshaun, Xander. You could make an argument. Danny and Nasir were kind of the wholesome, just really nice people this season. The super likable type. And I love Danny and Nasir. I thought they were both great. I was rooting for both of them just because they were nice people. They're just really nice people. So, yeah, and they're very likable as well. But yeah, Deshawn, I mean, Evie was better than I thought she was going to be. I thought she was going to go full, like, woke political this season. She was going to be one of those people, and she wasn't. In fact, I don't really think she ever brought up her political views at all. She was just out there focused on the game, and so I kind of like that about her. She surprised me this season. And, of course, Sydney. One of the best characters that I think this show has had in a long time. I loved Sydney. I thought she was awesome. She was super arrogant, super cocky, but she knew that she was like that, and she absolutely owned it. So I thought she was fantastic. I knew she wasn't going to win because her social game wasn't all that great, but I thought she was a really fun character to watch. She's like the female version of Tyson in a way, and with a little bit of Russell Hantz kind of mixed in there. That's what she reminded me of. I thought she was fantastic. I would love to see her again because she got absolutely robbed this season, and I will talk about that. Oh, wait till we get to that. But yeah, so yeah, I liked Sydney a lot. However, in terms of the cast, that's all that there really is to it. Let's talk about some of the duds this season. Of course, Abraham. I mean, I wasn't really expecting much of Abraham to begin with, so he was kind of whatever. I already talked about JD and Jeannie and all that. And then, let's see, I'm trying to remember who else got voted off. So there was Voce, Brad. I already talked about him. I already talked about Jeannie and JD. So, yeah, like, those were all the pre-merge boots. And then Sydney, I already talked about Sydney. Tiffany, yeah, wasn't really a big fan of her. She was just kind of there, didn't really do much. She was a disappointment, actually. I was a lot more optimistic about her at the beginning of the season, but she did not do anything for me at all this season. I just wasn't a big fan of her. And then, of course, you have people like Heather and Erica. Heather was just, I mean, super under-edited. She was purpled. She was the Purple Kelly of this season. Got almost no screen time at all. She was just kind of there. I mean, her biggest moment this season was apologizing for being a white person, basically, which is cringe. But, yeah, and I guess you could say the fire-making challenge. But, yeah, other than that, she was just kind of there. And then Erica, kind of the same thing. Pre-merge, she didn't really emerge until, like, 3 episodes before the finale. And then, even then, she was just kind of back and forth all over the place. And pre-merge, she was pretty much non-existent. She was like Heather, so, yeah. And the fact that she ended up winning this season, I'll talk a little bit more about that in a bit, but, yeah, I was not a fan of that at all. So, yeah, like, who else? I talked about Nasir already, Evie, Ricard. Ricard was a good character, I guess you can say that. I forgot to mention him. He was fine. Didn't really like him because of something that happened in the first episode, but, I mean, I probably would have rooted for him to win if they had kept him at Final 5, because not getting rid of him there would have been the dumbest move I think anybody could have made that season. So, yeah, it was a good thing they got rid of him at Final 5, because he would have won. And I would have been fine with him winning, at least more so than Erica, but, again, more on that later. Let's see, who else? I already talked about Xander and Deshawn and Danny. And then Liana. Liana was... I wasn't too big on her either. She was, again, just kind of there for the most part. She got her advantage. I love that Xander clowned her. Again, more on that, but... yeah, Liana was just okay. I didn't hate her necessarily. I thought her speech at like the tribal she was voted off, I thought her speech was kind of cringe, but that she's basing that on her experience, so she feels compelled to make that speech. She's free to do that. I'm not going to criticize her for that. And then probably one of my least favorite Survivor players in recent memory, and that's Shan. I absolutely despised Shan. She was someone that I thought maybe had a potential chance to win. When I did my cast assessment, I was kind of high on Shan. Oh my god, she was so unlikable. just so unlikable. I have no idea why she has a fan base, because she had to act so entitled to everything. She was so cocky. She had that stupid soundtrack, the with that dumbass smirk on her face every time she hummed it in a confessional. And like, she was so cocky. She thought she was running the show, and then whenever she realized that she wasn't running the show, she would throw a hissy fit like a little baby. Like, she would just go around being like, "Oh my God, these people don't want to work with me," and like, she would play the victim all the time. She would constantly project and blame others for her mistakes that she made. She acted like she was always on top of the world and everything had to run through her. Oh my God, it was so annoying. It was so annoying. I was so happy when Ricard finally turned on her, and then he and Erica kind of worked together to get rid of her. I mean, he didn't really work with Erica. Erica came up with a plan to like split the votes, and they kind of went with it. So, but yeah, but it was Ricard's move. So yeah. But yeah, I'm so happy Ricard finally turned on her at Final 8, and they blindsided her with an idol in her pocket. That was the most satisfying moment of the season for me, when she finally went out. Because she was so bad this season. I hope we never see her again, but unfortunately I think if there is a returning season, she will be someone to come back. Because, I mean, she was a big character. She was admittedly a big character this season, and she did have potential to play a good game. I just did not like her at all. So, yeah, that's my thoughts on the cast. Overall, kind of a disappointing cast, mainly because all of the big characters this season were voted out pre-merge. So, yeah, or most of the big characters. I shouldn't say all the big characters, most of the big characters. Pretty much up until, like, the actual merge, which, let's talk about that, shall we? The main reason this season was so bad, well, there's two of them, actually. I'll talk about this one first, because it's kind of a smaller reason, and that's the wokeness, or constant bringing up of identity politics. And it wasn't too terribly prevalent for the most part, mainly in the pre-merge, but oh my God, there were a couple big moments in the post-merge. Lyanna's speech, I already kind of touched on that a little bit. I'm sorry. Like, I don't know what Lyanna's going through. I can't read her brain, but, I mean, was it really necessary to devote 15 minutes of tribal council to that? 15 minutes to that! And then you have people like Xander and Heather. I mean, Xander was kind of relating, and then you have Heather, who just apologizes for being white, basically. Like, did we really need to see 15 minutes of that? It's one thing to make like a 2 or 3 minute speech on that, but 15 minutes is how much we devoted to like all this race and identity politics talk at a tribal council of Survivor. I'm here to watch Survivor, okay? Like, the whispering tribal councils are one thing. Like, a lot of people don't like the whispering at tribal councils. I'm here for that. That's Survivor. Like, well, I guess it's not Survivor, like old school Survivor. It's more new school Survivor, but it's still Survivor. And honestly, I'm fine with it. I don't really mind it as much, unless it's forced. Like the second merge tribal where Tiffany got voted out, Heather got up and decided to whisper something into someone else's ear. Like, that was kind of forced. I don't really think I needed that, but the Sydney boot, I thought that was fun. Like, I like that. It's good TV. It's a lot of fun. But when you're talking about like real world stuff in a game of Survivor, I don't mind a little bit of social commentary here and there, because after all, Survivor is a social game. But when it's forced down your throat like that, it's just, I'm not here for that. I don't want to be preached to. I don't want to have people virtue signal to me about how bad of a person I am and how much better they are than us. I mean, I guess it wasn't that extreme. It's not the Oscars, okay? Like, let's make that clear. It wasn't the Oscars, but it was still very prevalent, and I just don't need to see that on my screen for 15 minutes. So, yeah, there's that. And then, as you guys may have noticed in the intro of this video, I emphasized the word guys. Oh my god. That is the worst virtue signal I think I have ever seen in any show, movie, like award show, whatever. That was the worst. So basically, what happened? Not 5 minutes into the episode, 5 minutes into the first episode, Jeff Probst is like, do you think the word guys is still, like, I guess PC enough? That's how I'm going to put it. Is it not politically correct? And then Evie raised her hand first. I was like, oh no, Evie's going to say something like super woke, isn't she? No, she didn't. She surprised me. She said, I don't think we need to remove it. I've never been offended by it. Even as a queer woman, I've never been offended by it. So I think we should keep it. Jeannie, another queer woman, nodded in agreement. And most of the other cast didn't really seem to care. I was like, okay, fine. Screw you, Jeff Probst, for virtue signaling, but I'm glad the cast is not offended by it. And then at the immunity challenge, this is like 30 minutes later, Ricard has to open up his mouth and say, oh, I'm not comfortable with it, we should get rid of it. And Jeff Probst is like, okay, let's get rid of it. I've been wanting to get rid of it for many years anyway, so let's get rid of it. I'm glad you brought it up. And, of course, nobody else says anything because they're too afraid to speak. That's just how beta this cast is, except for Sydney. Sydney's kind of based, but yeah. Yeah, that's... So, yeah, like, basically, let's ignore the opinions of Evie and Jeannie, two queer women, and let's listen to one man who just also happens to be queer, or LGBTQ. I don't really know what he identifies as, but he's gay, whatever you want to call it. But yeah, let's listen to him over the opinions of literally everyone else, because I want to virtue signal so hard and earn myself some woke points. That's what Jeff Probst did. It was so cringe. And yeah, like he could have, now, if he had just removed the word guys from Come On In Guys, if he had just removed it without making a big deal of it, he could have just been like, at the immunity challenge, just said, come on in. I'm sure nobody would have made a deal about it if he didn't actually say anything about it. Or he didn't make a whole big deal of it on TV. He didn't have to make this stupid virtue signal and waste like 10 minutes of the first episode doing that. He didn't have to do it. It was so unnecessary. If you wanted to remove the word guys so badly, just stop saying it without letting anybody know. I don't think a lot of people would have noticed. And even if they did, I don't think they would have made a big deal of it. God. But the real reason I hated this season so much is because of the twists and advantages. The twists and advantages, I already talked about the do or die twist in another video. Go watch that video if you haven't. That's where I kind of break down the do or die twist, and I go into a lot more detail about it. I've already talked about how bad that twist was. I don't need to say anything more. It's the worst twist in Survivor history. Don't really need to say anything else. It's stupid. It should never be used again. I pray to God they don't bring it back in season 42. They probably will, though, because it was filmed back-to-back, and fans didn't get a chance to see season 41 before season 42 was filmed. So, yeah, and that goes for all the twists. But let's talk about some of the other ones. The Beware Advantage. The Beware Advantage I thought was a fine idea. However, I did not like the execution of it at all. Like, I can understand, like, okay, you have an immunity idol now, but now you have to earn this idol, and you give up your vote until you earn it. And I thought, okay, saying kind of a dumb phrase, a silly phrase at an immunity challenge in front of everybody, I thought that was fine. However, the element of it I don't like is the fact that you have to wait for the other two tribes to find their idols in order for the advantage to actually work. That's what I don't like, because if you're going to do that, at least don't take votes away from people. Like, if you're going to make it so that the other tribe has to find their idols first, don't take votes away from them, at least. I feel like that's way too risky then to do that. I can understand wanting to make people earn immunity idols. So either leave the phrase in, or like even make the castaway do something else, like find it at an immunity challenge. They did that in Game Changers, and several seasons before that. Like, I think Cambodia was the season they did that. Island of the Idols, they did that. Like, at least make them earn it in a different way. Don't make it so that you have to rely on other tribes to do it. I don't like that. So that's my problem with that. Knowledge is power. That advantage is way too overpowered and way too unfair, I think. I mean, Liana got that advantage basically because she was chosen to go on a journey. The whole journeys I thought was fine. They only did it a couple times this season. I thought it was alright. Like, protect your vote, risk your vote for an advantage. But at least if you're going to do that, don't make the advantage so overpowered like this one is. Make it like an idol nullifier or a steal a vote or something like that. Don't make it like, oh, you can steal, if you know somebody has an idol, you can steal it from them. So, like, don't make it like that. It's unfair. It doesn't work. I don't like it at all. It's not Survivor. You're basically taking away someone like Xander or, I think, who else had an idol? Nasir? Someone like Xander or Nasir. Don't make that all their hard work go for nothing. And then, like, make it so that the person with the knowledge is power advantage takes credit for it, basically. Like, the idol nullifier is one thing. I actually don't mind the idol nullifier too much. But with the idol nullifier, the person that uses the idol nullifier is not given an idol. The knowledge is power is basically the idol nullifier, except you can't wait for the person to play the idol. You actually have to take it from them before. Like, I don't like that. I'm not a fan of that at all. And then there's the Hourglass Twist. God almighty. These twists this season. This is arguably the second worst twist in Survivor history. Basically what happened at the merge is they divided into 2 teams of 6. They competed in a challenge. The team that won the challenge got to go to the merge. They earned the merge feast, which, by the way, I don't like that either. I think all 12 of them should have gotten to enjoy the merge feast. It's part of the reason I didn't like Game Changers as well, because they did that in Game Changers, except it was only 2 instead of 6. But yeah, like, they win the merge feast and they win buffs, which, again, I think is stupid. I think just give all 12 of them buffs. And then they also won immunity or actually it was teams of 5, not teams of 6. That's a very important part, actually. It was teams of 5. Yeah, that team of 5 wins the challenge. They win immunity at the tribal, which, whatever, I don't really care about that much. And then the losing team of 5, they're not safe. They get to go to tribal, and everyone gets to vote, but only one of those 5 people can get voted off. Again, I'm kind of neutral on that. Like, again, I think it's a little too overpowered, but not too bad. But now there's 2 other people, Erica and Nasir, just because they drew bad rocks, basically. Like, they drew rocks. These teams were not schoolyard picks. They were decided by a rock draw. Erica and Nasir, like, they didn't participate in the challenge. The winning team got to choose one of them to join them in the merge feast, immunity at tribal, and so they chose Nasir. Erica gets to go to Exile Island for a couple days, and the advantage that she gets here is an hourglass. Basically, what she could do here is if she smashed that hourglass, she could change the results of the challenge. So now the people that are safe, they're not safe. The only reward they won was the merge feast. They no longer have immunity, but the team that lost is now safe, including Erica herself. So yeah, the choice was obvious. She was smashing that hourglass, changed the course of history. So stupid. And here's why. Basically, the team that won the challenge, they had to work for it, right? They had to work for it. Now they get punished because, like, they won a challenge, basically. Erica was sent there by rock draw, pretty much. It was her or Nasir. They couldn't choose anybody else. Nasir probably would have done the same thing, I'm guessing. He would have smashed the hourglass as well, because it guarantees him safety. Like, who wouldn't smash the hourglass? It was a cheap twist. That's the only reason why Erica survived, and that's part of the problem I have with Erica as a winner, is because of that. like, she was basically non-existent pre-merge, and then she comes in and she gets this twist that completely benefits her. There's really no repercussions for smashing the Hourglass here. She just completely benefits from this twist. She would have gotten voted out that night if she didn't smash the Hourglass, or she didn't get the Hourglass twist. She would have gotten voted out. So why does the winning team get punished for a decision that is completely out of their control, basically? Why? That's so stupid. I mean, Nasir didn't do anything wrong. Now he gets punished as well. So stupid. That's not Survivor to me. That's just not Survivor. So yeah, that's the main problem I have with this season, is all the abundance of twists and advantage. The Final 5 immunity challenge, that's another big advantage that Erica had. That was a huge advantage. She just kind of stumbled upon it. All 5 of them were looking for it. So I can't really say that she didn't work for it, because she did. She saw the problem, but she was lucky enough to be the one to stumble upon it. So yeah, that greatly benefited her. I don't think she would have gotten voted out, because I think Ricard was getting voted out no matter what if he didn't win. But without that advantage, Ricard probably wins that challenge. So yeah, I mean, if he had won that challenge, I mean, they probably vote off Deshawn, but still, I think it gave him an... But Ricard at least would have had a chance to make fire, so he got screwed in that sense. But yeah, I'm just not a fan of all the abundance of twists and advantages. And then finally, the moments this season. There were some good moments. The fire-making challenge was probably the best moment of this season. That was awesome. It was so close. It was kind of back and forth. Like, it looked like Deshawn was going to win, and then his flame went out. And then it looked like Heather was going to win. Her fire was literally touching the rope, and the rope just wouldn't snap. And then her fire started to go down. Deshawn's kind of came back up. And then both fires at the same time were starting to burn through the rope. Deshawn's just happened to burn first. So yeah, that was awesome. That was a nail biter. That was a great moment of this season. And that's kind of glad why I'm glad the fire making challenge is still a thing. So yeah, that was awesome. And then of course you have like the merge tribal. That was a fun moment. You get with all the whispering and all the craziness happening. And Xander's move this season. Oh man, that was classic. He basically just clowned Liana. Like, I don't know what kind of vendetta Liana had against Xander throughout the season. That was kind of, like, weird. But yeah, Liana tries to play her knowledge is power advantage on Xander. And Xander's like, no, but you can have this fake. So awesome. I love that moment. And then you have the flashback. Xander talking about, like, Liana wanted to wipe the smile off his face. He did it right back to her. That was amazing. That was a lot of fun. So yeah, and I thought the Sham blindside was awesome as well. Again, one of the most satisfying moments of the season was seeing Shan go home. Finally, get that lady off the show. I never want to see her again. That moment was awesome. But really, other than those moments, those few moments, that's really it for this season. There's not a lot of memorable moments here. It was kind of predictable. I mean, the winner wasn't really all that predictable, but yeah, I don't think Erica's a very good winner. I just don't. And I know some people are going to come on here and say, oh, you just don't think that because she's a woman of color. Anybody who says that is getting blocked. I'm dead serious. Stop the race baiting. Stop the gender identity politics BS. I just don't think Erica was that great of a player. She had a couple good moments. Like, I thought her voting off her, like the Danny boot, I thought that was her idea. She deserves credit for that. And I thought her finale was fine. Her final tribal council was fine. Xander kind of botched his, so that's probably why he didn't get any votes, which I think is criminal, by the way. He should have gotten at least a couple votes. But yeah, like Xander or Deshawn could have won over her. I also think that if Shan had gotten to the end, as much as I dislike her, she probably would have gotten a vote to win. So, yeah. But, yeah, overall, guys, that's all I really have to say. This video is kind of long. I need to end it. So, we're just going to give it a score. I am going to give Survivor 41 a 3 out of 10. Alright, and there's my review slash kind of a rant on Survivor 41. You might be surprised by the score a little bit. That might be a little bit higher than you expected with all my ranting and complaining about this season. But this season just left a bitter taste in my mouth. And it just wasn't Survivor. It's not the Survivor I know and love. And I get it. It's drop the 4, keep the 1. New era of Survivor. But if this is the direction it's going to go, then I don't know how much longer I can keep watching. Because I know I said I was never going to stop watching Survivor, but if it's going to go down this route that it's going, then yeah, like, it's just not going to be that entertaining anymore. So, yeah, that's what I have to say about it. Also, I find it funny that Jeff Probst said it was a new era of Survivor, and yet they still kept using the same challenges from like the past 5 seasons. Like, if you're going to make it a new era of Survivor, at least make new challenges. Like, come on. So many of these challenges this season we've seen before. In fact, we've seen almost every single challenge, I think, this season, or at least different iterations of challenges. Come up with new ideas there. You say, drop the 4, keep the 1, it's a new era of Survivor, at least make new challenges, you know what I mean? So, yeah, I forgot to add that, but I just had to add it there. Anyway, guys, let me know what you think about this season down in the comments below. Like, do you agree with me? Do you disagree with me? What would you change about this season? Who would you have voted for at the final tribal? Honestly, my vote was originally going to be for Deshawn, but after the finale, I might have voted for Xander. I don't really know. Like, it was kind of a toss-up between Deshawn and Xander, but I think I would have leaned towards Xander because we got some great personal content from him in the finale. He made a lot of good moves this season. So, yeah, I really liked Xander this season. So, yeah, that's probably who would have gotten my vote. But, yeah, let me know down in the comments below what you thought of this season. Make sure to hit that thumbs up button if you enjoyed it. And make sure to hit that subscribe button down below for more content to come in the future. And until that next video, once again, my name is the California Cougar. And always remember, stay California cool. Peace!